Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening, Dan. How are you doing?
I am doing great, thank you.
All right, so we're off to the golf second major of the year after an incredible finish at the Masters. Rory McIlroy winning after 11 years. Just to quickly give an update on where we are with this course. This is going to be at the Quail Hollow. It used to be previously the Wells Fargo, used to be there. The President's Cup was also hosted there. And I think this is the 107th edition of the Wannamaker Trophy. So let's quickly go down to your initial thing about the PGA Championship in general. I think the last year's championship winner was Xander Schauffele. So let's talk about your view on some of the contenders and some of the dark horses, and we'll definitely do what, 2 and 2, like we always do.
Yeah, we can do two and 2 and 2. I guess we can do. So I'm psyched for the. I think we're both kind of psyched and ready for some good TV viewing. Hopefully this weekend with the PGA Championship. It's kind of, at first it was kind of strange when they shifted the calendar around about 5 or 6 years ago. It used to be August. You remember? This used to be the last of the four majors, the PGA, and they brought it up into May recently, so that they have 4 straight months with majors, starting with the Masters and then ending with the British Open in July. So it's kind of nice how we have something every like 3 or 4 weeks to look forward to, instead of that big gap between the Masters and the U.S. Open in the middle of June. And so, yeah, it's kind of unique in that also, like you mentioned, it used to be the Wells Fargo. Quail Hollow is the site of the Wells Fargo Championship, which is an annual stop on the PGA Tour. I think it's one of the elevated events now over the last handful of years. But it's kind of unique in that not too many majors do we see have regular stops on the PGA Tour year in and year out. So I can think of only one off the top of my head, Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach Pro-Am every year has a stop, and they host the U.S. Open, every 7 or 8 years or so. I guess one thing you could say is that all these players are going to be, very familiar with the track and the layout, and I mean, obviously the whole locations and all that stuff's going to change each day, but there's still just familiarity, and familiarity is important when you're playing a golf course. You just feel comfortable out there. The contenders, I think, are going to be our usual suspects. The last like 4 or 5 majors now, we've seen the trio of Rory, Scottie, Scheffler, and then Bryson. Bryson contended at the PGA last year with with Xander. They were kind of 1-2 in that final day, and then Bryson went on to win the U.S. Open, and Rory's had a great track record as well at the majors over the last 4 or 5 majors. He's contended in, I think, in the majority of them, and obviously with winning at the Masters last month. And then, Scottie's been right there also. Scottie won the Masters last year, and then he contended at the. We had that issue at the PGA, which we all know last year with the police and spending the morning in jail, and then that just kind of threw him off for that rest of that weekend. But he's been right there for every major as well, for the most part. So, and then Scheffler, and then as far as who's hot right now, also you got to look. I think last week on the Live Tour, I believe the winner was Bryson last week, so he's playing good golf. And as we know, he was I think 3rd or 4th place at the Masters. He had a bad Sunday, but he was him and Rory were in the final group on final pairing at the Masters last month. So Bryson's playing good, and then Scottie last week, 2 weeks, I think it was 2 weeks ago, set the scoring. I think he either tied or broke the all-time PGA Tour record for most under par, 31 under par at the Byron Nelson Cup down in Dallas. So I think those are our 3 guys. Then you got to throw in right now also Justin Thomas. I think he's been kind of a comeback player of the year the last year or two. He kind of struggled the last 2-3 years after he won a few majors, kind of disappeared, worked through some issues out there on the course, and then he's I think a top five, definitely a top 10, maybe even he might have cracked the top five now. He won at Harbour Town the week after the Masters. He won the elevated event there. So I think the three guys we're looking at are the big three I mentioned, and then maybe Justin Thomas, and then Xander. You can't forget either. He's had some injury issues early on this year, but I think he's starting to put it together, and he won 2 majors last year. So you can never dismiss a guy who won 2 majors of the 4 last year. So that's kind of my quick recap of who to look out for, the big three, and maybe a few others, and you can chime in and see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so quickly, before we get to the players, I think we both talked about that being the venue for Wells Fargo, which was also the venue for the President's Cup, which I saw. And I think going back to what you mentioned about when the PGA Championship used to be, that was a question. I don't know if you've heard all of Jim Nance. That was a question. I think Gary asked Nance, or someone there in the interview panel asked Nance about what his feeling was about moving it from August to May. So you should listen to it when you get a chance, and what Nance said, what he thought about it. So going back to the players now, Scottie has been playing unreal, as we talked about in the Byron Nelson. When compared to the 2024, he's had a much more subdued record this year. He won the Byron Nelson, no doubt, but he did have a chance even in the Masters. But again, he kind of fell off the radar on the last day. And Scottie has only won 2 Masters so far, so he does not have in any other major other than the Masters. So that's where we are with Scottie. It's going to be interesting. And he's not played the scores as much because, from what I heard, he did skip. I think his last appearance was in the President's Cup in 2022, where he was on the U.S. team, but he didn't win any of his 4 matches and secure only half a point. So he's historically opted out of the Wells Fargo. Going back to, like you said, Rory, he is actually called this one of his favorite golf courses. He's won it 4 times, including one last year. He has set course records, of course, quite a few years ago. It would be his 3rd championship that he'd be seeking. And then finally, Xander, he had a rib injury, but he was a runner-up in the 2024 Wells Fargo Championship with Rory. But like I said, 2025, he's not, because of injury, he's not started well. And then you mentioned Justin Thomas, who won it in 2017. And then coming back to the live guy, which is Bryson DeChambeau, and then all the other guys will be here. I think Dustin Johnson will be there, and Koepka will be there as well. The other player, when I looked at the contenders, is Colin Morikawa. So I think he won the 2020 PGA Championship. But I think one of the things that I heard during the podcast was that it's a long course. It's 7,600 yards, so could definitely test a driving distance from a lot of golfers when it starts on Thursday. So quickly going down to who do you think? Maybe we'll start the. Before we go there, the course. I think I was mentioning 7626 yards. That's the length of the course. So that's. I didn't realize that they've had refinements by Arnold Palmer in '86, and then Fazio. And I know we played Fazio in Hilton Head, but and also in 2014, 2016 as late as that. And then there's like when I listened to the podcast, they did talk about hole by hole, and they said the first 5 to 6 holes are going to be quite challenging. So, and then of course, the 16, 17, 18, the finishing holes are going to be challenging as well.
Yeah, they call that the Green Mile, I believe, right?
The Green Mile, yes, right.
Officially called the Green Mile, the last 3 holes. Yeah. The last hole is the one with the creek. I remember watching from the Wells Fargo over the years that, there's a creek that comes along the left side of the hole, up the whole fairway on the left, and that's come into play more often than not. And believe me, if Rory's got a 1-shot lead, we know where that ball's going on the 18th.
Yes, your famous quote when we play golf internally, the 17th hole, and they got a par 3 220 yards. So I'm sure Sut and Andy will get a kick out of that one anyway,
Hmm.
the 17th hole. So quickly going down to who do you think are your favorites to win it, and then we'll pick two dark horses as well. And I'll give you the first dibs as always.
Okay, well that's kind of you. So I'm gonna keep going. My guy, I pick every tournament's Scottie. It's hard. I mean, the one big criticism you could make of Scottie, or the devil's advocate, is that he hasn't played much at Wells Fargo. So he's not doesn't have much experience on that track. But I'm gonna overlook that. I don't think that's. I mean, yeah, that does matter. I can't say it doesn't matter, but I think coming off his 31 under performance and just that ball striking alone, it's going to carry over to this course. I think just his stats there at the Byron Nelson were just ridiculous. His putting stats, his green, his driving, his approach to. I think he had like so many shots within 10 feet, so he was making birdie after birdie when you're having 10-foot putts for birdie. So I think just he's finally there. He had that injury in December, that unfortunate domestic accident with the glass where he cut his hand, and I think he's finally back and comfortable. And like you said, he's only won. We talk about him as if he's won 5 or 6 majors. He's won 2 Masters, which give him a couple more. He's a Hall of Famer, might already be one, but he has not won any major besides the Masters. So that's kind of the one knock on him still, and he's gonna win them, probably win them all before he's done. He'll probably also have a career Grand Slam, I think. But so I'll go with Scottie as my first pick, and then I'm going to go with the 2017 winner as my second pick, Justin Thomas, because I think he's playing well right now. He played a great tournament over the weekend at the Philly, that Truist Open up at the Philly Cricket Club up at that tournament. I think he was tied 3rd or 4th, I want to say.
That's the one.
Yeah, the one Straka was 1. I think Lowry was 2, and Thomas was right there 3. I think he had a couple bogeys down the stretch, Thomas. Otherwise, he was right there. So he's been playing well. So I'm going to go with I'll go with Scottie and JT as my 2 picks, and then for the winners, and then I'll let you do yours.
I'll pick. So again, this is the sentimental pick, I think, based on what just happened. The fact that Rory calls it his favorite course. I was leading towards Rory McIlroy as the one of my picks for that, just because he's been playing well. I mean, it's just that he didn't sniff the championship for many years, but I think the Masters one definitely gives him a boost, and I think, and if he wins it, the next one will be the U.S. Open. I think, was it at Oakmont this time? No.
Oakmont is the yes.
U.S. Open. Yeah, correct. So Rory's one, and the other one is I think I already mentioned about this guy who finished a runner-up to Rory last year, Xander, and he won 2 majors last year. So like I said, coming out with rib injury, playing well. I'm sure, and he knows his course pretty well. So unlike Scheffler, but again, never putting anything past Scheffler. So you got JT and Scheffler. I got Rory. And Rory and Xander.
Okay.
Now, quickly going down to your dark horses, 2 dark horses.
Okay, I'll go with let's see. I'm gonna go with one of them is Corey Connors. I was listening to some podcasts. He's been playing. They said he's been striking the ball really well. So I'm gonna go with, he's a Canadian, Corey Connors. He always does well at the Masters. You always hear his name on the top 10 at the Masters. I'm not sure if he's had many other top 10 finishes at majors over his career, but I think he's hot right now. So I'm going to go out there with Corey Connors. And my second pick is going to be the runner-up at the Masters. I don't know if we can call him a dark horse, but his world ranking is still down, I think, quite a ways. Justin Rose. He's got a great record at the last several majors. It seems like he comes to play at the majors over the last couple of years. A lot of good showings. I get the British Open last year. He had a top 5. We know what he did at the Masters. He was right there in the playoff. So I'm going to go with Corey Connors and then Justin Rose as my 2 more dark horse picks. So 2 Justins.
You got the 2 Justins. Yeah, there you go. And I'm going to go with my traditional dark horse pick for this. Yeah, you got it. You guessed it right.
I'm not Ludwig. Ludwig or no?
Yeah, Ludwig. You're right, Ludwig. I mean, I always.
He's a top five world player though, but I guess we'll give it to you.
You're going to give it to me. That's fine. I mean, and then I cannot pick DeChambeau as that because I think
No,
he's there. But I'm
he's
going
a
to
he's,
go with I'm going to try somebody different. Patrick Cantlay. I think I looked up some of his records. I think he's a 28 to 1 long shot, but he's still seeking his first major. I think his best
yeah.
major for the title. So I think I'll go with Patrick Cantlay and Ludwig
Yeah.
Aberg. I mean, I was
He
thinking
might be the
about
best player. Yeah, he might be the best player never to have won a major right now, Cantlay. When you do that discussion, he's had some great seasons, and he's won plenty of PGA events, but he's never really broken through at a major still.
yeah. I mean, any of the other live guys that you give a chance in the top three, top five, other than DeChambeau.
I mean, I think you have to always give Kepka a chance just because his
Yeah,
track record.
he's a three-time PGA winner. I mean,
He's won
he
five
is.
majors, right? Two U.S. Opens, three PGAs, and how can you ever rule him out? He's kind of got that bulldog mentality, but he just has not been playing well lately the last year or so. So it's hard to really give him a real chance. Dustin Johnson has no chance. He's just living the life with Paulina, right? Jet setting around. I don't think he's got any chance. And then John Rahm, I looked up at DraftKings. He's high up there somehow he's high up there on the list, like top 10 for odds. John Rahm, but I don't give him much of a chance. I don't think he's just ever since he went to live.
Since he has won the Masters, I think I've not seen him really
No.
rise up to the occasion. So I definitely think that's there. So okay, I think I mean we talked about the golfers. So I have some trivia for you.
Okay.
This is good. So the youngest and the oldest winners. So Gene Sarazen was the youngest player to win the PGA Championship at the age of 20 years old and
Okay.
5 months. That was way back in 1922. I mean, I know the name, but never seen anybody play. Who is the oldest PGA winner?
That's an easy one. I wouldn't have known the youngest one. That would have been a hard one. The oldest is Phil. At
Okay,
what do you call
50
it?
years
Down
old.
in at Kiowa, right? Kiowa at the Kiowa Resort. Yeah.
That's the yeah. You're right. That's the right one. Then
Yeah.
you got two golfers have the record for the most PGA championships.
Hmm.
These are two easy ones. One back in the 20s, then the other one. Guess both of
Well,
them. The
I'm gonna
one
go.
that
I was gonna guess Tiger and Jack, but that's not the
well,
20.
Jack is definitely there. So I told you the other one was like way back in the 20s.
So Jack
So
is one
that's
of
that.
them.
Jack is definitely one of them. Yes.
Okay. Tiger's not one of them, huh?
No.
No.
And just to give you a hint, um, this person, we just heard that um, Rory just achieved the Grand Slam, right? Um, I don't know if
And Hogan?
no, this gentleman doesn't have the Grand Slam. I don't think he's got the career Grand Slam.
He does not. So it's not Ben Hogan
He
then.
does not have a career Grand Slam, but he's a pretty famous name.
Um, it's not Ben.
But back in the 20s though, so I don't think
It's not Ben Hogan. Bobby Jones, Walter Hagen.
Walter Hagen. There you go.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I know these are like because I was trying to pull up some trivia for this and like the Masters. Masters is so out there, so hallowed. Masters and
Yeah.
the number. I think PGA again. If you look at it, I mean it's now considered as a fourth major, obviously, but I mean typically when we talk about a lot of the prestigious ones, it's always the Masters, the British Open, and then the U.S. Open. I mean, PGA is now, like the fourth major. Maybe like it's called the Australian Open of golf. Maybe.
Yeah, they call it that, but I feel like the PGA over the years has had some great finishes that that resonate still. That I remember from my childhood and young adult, whatever you want to call it, adulthood, watching some of the. I mean, I'm trying to think back. I was talking to you before we went live here. The Tiger and Bob May duel at. I'm not sure if it was Valhalla. I forget which course now that was at, to be honest. But it was Tiger and I think Bob May dueling it out in a playoff aggregate. There was the remember the kind of one hit wonder, Rich Beam. Remember him? Rich Beam. He won a PGA.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. He won a PGA. Kind of surprisingly, I remember that very vividly. That tournament. Remember there was the gentleman also. Why? Remember when Tiger got upset by that golfer, I think Korean golfer Ye Yang. Remember him?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so some of those tournaments really resonate. I remember watching that. Maybe it's just the CBS, coverage with Jim Nantz. It's just I like the CBS, coverage. They do a great job covering the sport always. So PGA has always been a CBS covered event. But so yeah, I mean, although you're right, it probably is the fourth as far as prestige because you got the obviously Masters, and then you can argue the two U.S. and British Open 2 and 3. But it's had plenty of great finishes, and I think we'll be glued to the TV come Sunday and Saturday.
Yeah. And one thing about the trophy name, it's a Wannamaker Trophy. I did when I was looking at the research. It is awarded to the winners named after Rodman Wannamaker, who was actually a businessman instrumental in the formation of PGA of America in 1960. And as you know, the trophy is probably one of the largest, right? I think it's like 2.5 feet tall at 27 pounds. And apparently, they don't give this a replica of that is the one the champion keeps. And a lot of interesting stats I saw about where the person who won the first inaugural championship won a $500 and a diamond-studded gold medal, which is kind of interesting. Some of the stats, it was again thanks to AI, but
Yeah.
sometimes you trust AI, but that's where we are.
Yeah.
So I think this is good. Like just to recap, I think you got two Rose, Justin Thomas and Scottie, and then Rose and Corey Connors, and I have Xander and Rory, and then I got Ludwig and Patrick Cantlay. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So that's the wrap on the golf for PGA, and of course we'll be back. I think we're going to be back to do tennis. I think for the French Open that starts
Yes.
in about a couple of
Yes.
weeks, and we got
Couple weeks.
Rome Italian Open going on, which is actually going to be very interesting. I don't know if you've been following that.
Sinner's still
got a chance.
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be great. You're going to have the Draper Alcaraz tomorrow morning, and
Oh, wow.
Musetti and Zverev. That's going to be interesting. And I think Zverev, like I said, Alcaraz Draper has been playing well. I mean, Alcaraz
Yeah.
has been dealing with some, and
I think
Draper definitely.
Draper beat him a few weeks ago, right? Indian Wells or somewhere at Miami, one of the two.
Yeah. And then you got Tommy Paul and Hurkacz, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sinner's awaiting the winner of one of the winners. I think. So I got to see who he's going to be playing on Thursday. So we'll see. So with that we wrap up the golf, the Wannamaker Trophy, and let's see if Rory can do back to back, or can Scottie win anything other than the Masters. So there you go. With that, wrap it up. Have a good night, Dan. Let's just stop the recording here.
Thanks for listening. Primo and Dan will be back soon.